Tell me why the Cavs could win the championship this year.
Okay, where do I start? They are not one-dimensional anymore. You
Mm.
watch their offense, they can play in three different speeds. You can be fast with the small ball five lineup. You can slow it down in the half court and have plenty of havoc and motion going on off the ball with different sets and different tendencies. And then you can have that kind of middle ground to where you're not completely being speedy, but you're also able to slow it down. So, like the fact that they can play three paces, they have different styles, they can match you in different ways. Defensively, if they're getting beat in the man, they go straight to the zone. And then the zone will stop you. And if the zone's not working, then they'll end up doing some switching, shell coverage. Like they have so many different ways to attack you, to defend you, and so many different weapons that are utilized. Plus the depth that's actually being used this year, unlike past years, that are keeping the primary guys in the core four fresh so that when they go into April, May, and possibly June, they're not going to be tired out of their minds. They're not going to have knick-knack injuries on their knees. There's no tendonitis, none of those wear and tear things. And then you just also look at the shot allocation and the minute allocation. It's all spread out. Kenny Atkinson is not just depending on 5 guys. He's depending on 10 guys, and each of them has had their moment this year. So I think that is why they're a true contender. I don't look at anything from the past because it's a brand new philosophy, brand new strategy. Yes, mostly the same players, but that's also a big reason why they're at where they're at. It's because chemistry is built organically. If they've spent time together for 2 to 3 years, some cases for these guys 4 years, it's going to show up. And you have a lot of people in that locker room who understand there's unfinished business here. And they know what the goal is. They know how good they are. They're not cocky, but they're confident. And they also have this level-headed mentality as a locker room, which trickles down from Kenny Atkinson and Donovan Mitchell and so forth. So that is why I think they're a contender, because the habits they're building now, forget the wins, forget the losses. They're 36-7. They lost one in Houston last night because Guy didn't make free throws. Big whoop. This team has the mentality and the maturity to where they're not playing down to competition or playing up to competition. They play everyone the same way, and they have counters for your counters. So that's why I think that they're a contender.
I agree with you, by the way. What I want to ask is, what do you see in their competition that makes it look like, oh, they can do this year? Or is it just more to what you're saying about the Cavaliers' improvements? Because while I think people have their criticisms about, hey, this is mostly the same team, I'm like, no. As somebody who covered the Nets those first 3 years when Kenny Atkinson was there, it's like, no, Kenny Atkinson's a different dude. And now he has more talent. Like I saw what he was doing with Isaiah Whitehead and Jeremy Lin and Spencer Dinwiddie before he was this. And KJ McDaniels and Quincy AC, and you know what I mean? Like I saw him coaching those dudes. And when he had these guys, I'm like, he has 4 guys that are all-star caliber on this team. You know?
Yeah.
Evan Mobley, I mean, he still may be one this year, but he's going to be a multiple-time all-star in his career. Jared Allen's been there. Darius Garland has also been there, actually. And Donovan Mitchell, obviously, I mean, he'll go again. But what do you see in the competition? Like, does Boston look like they've taken a step back? Did they match up well enough with OKC when they had that high-profile game that we all gathered to watch a week or 2 ago? With the Knicks, did they finally overcome that hurdle? Do they finally look like they may have their number because their roster construction? Like, what are you seeing in their competition and how they match up with them?
So I think it is pretty. While saying that I think that the Cavs are a contender and can win a championship this year, I'm not saying that the Celtics can't repeat because they're a really good team. They know
Yeah,
how this goes, and when
nuance.
you have to be nuanced in this conversation. I think that they're deep. They know how to use what they've got. Maybe Jaylen Brown's taking a step back, but Jason Tatum's on a mission after the Olympics. We know that, and they
Mm.
are deep. Love Derek White, Drew Holiday. Can't say enough about him. KP when he's healthy gives them an entire different dynamic. Al Horford somehow still looks like he's spry and doing his thing. Out on the 3-point line and guarding multiple positions. Peyton Pritchard, somebody that you really have to give a lot of credit to too. Like, and you're leaving out a bunch of names on that team, but they're all champions and they know how to get the job done. So until that job is finished and they are knocked off, then I can't say that the Cavs are more than a contender than them. New York's an interesting one. I don't know how I feel about them in the postseason. It just kind of goes back to Tibbs, and maybe this is a trope. Like, if I sound like an idiot, please by all means tell me. But like Tibbs's methods of playing guys and running them into the ground, I don't think is conducive to playoff success because guys are going to be worn down. And I think a little bit, I think to your point about the Knicks defense with Karl Anthony Towns out in the island up on the perimeter, I think they sacrificed their identity a little bit.
The Knicks also have an unfavorable record against the good teams, like the really good teams. They struggle against them, and I think a big part of it is actually like I go back to the Oklahoma City game when they played in Oklahoma City. The Knicks played 8 guys. Oklahoma City played 10. The Knicks played all their starters 40 plus minutes. Oklahoma City played none of their starters 40 minutes. They played 2 guys like around 36, 38 minutes, and everyone else was well under that. And they also had 3 guys coming off the bench who played like a good chunk of minutes. It was in that 15, 20 range from what I remember.
And then, like you look at the, Mikal being the Iron Man. I'm really curious to see if he continues to be an Iron Man with this kind of minutes.
This is the ultimate boss battle. It's the guy who has the reputation in Tom Thibodeau for wearing everyone down versus Mikal Bridges, who never misses a game. And we have till the spring to see who wins out in this ultimate battle of will and playing games for as many minutes as possible.
100%.
Point in Cleveland's favor. They are first in offense as of the time we're talking about them. They're 9th in defense. Every NBA champion of the last 25 years has been top 11 in offense and defense except for 2. Just 2. The 2 teams have something very important in common that, for example, the Knicks don't have this year, who are second in offense but 17th in defense. They got up to like 14, 15 before, and they've dropped back down because they started playing better teams in January. The 2 teams, the second Lakers three-peat team, the Denver Nuggets from 2023. The Lakers had Shaq, who was the best player in the NBA at the time, post Michael Jordan. The Denver Nuggets had Nikola Jokic, who was the best player in the NBA at the time and probably still is. And the Lakers also had, Kobe Bryant. 2 all-NBA guys. I think he was also all defense that year. And he wasn't, mid-2000s Kobe yet, but young Kobe was that dude. He was super athletic. He could obviously shoot. And he was just like the younger version of what we saw later on. Obviously, that felt like a stupid thing to say. That's obvious. And Shaq was still he was still peak Shaq. It was getting close to like the end of his peak, but not quite yet because he was in the middle of winning the finals MVPs. Shaq was still really, really, really good. The Knicks don't have that, for example, is the thing. Like Jalen Brunson is not the best player in the NBA. Karl Anthony Towns is not the best player in the NBA. Cleveland has the formula of being top 10 in both right now, top 9 in both right now. What are they doing defensively is my question to like make this sort of leap. Like what makes their defense legitimate?
They're more aggressive. They've been really apt to switching this year, and that includes Jared Allen, who hasn't really done too much of that in the past. Maybe he might have been doing more drop. Yes. Evan Mobley's been matching up on people. They've also been switching Darius Garland onto wings. And in that Boston matchup in Cleveland, I think you saw that really well work out in the Cavs' favor because it baited Jason Tatum into trying to take the easier 2s, but it only led him to the trees. And he started missing some shots from that like 8-foot range, that 4-foot range because shots were being contested. he was shooting over Darius Garland, but they was still being contested, and he was bringing kind of the guys that were behind him into the actions. So that, I think, not hiding DG, having Jarrett switch, and like I mentioned earlier, going to that 2-3 zone when the man-to-man is not working out, that is a weapon for them. I can't believe how much success that's had, because you'd think an NBA team would know how to adjust to a 3-2-3 zone, like make threes or get it to the middle and then play make from there. But every time the Cavs have employed it, it's gotten teams so shook, and I don't know why. Even good three-point shooting teams. So that, I think, is why their defense has been good. Where they have to improve, and maybe it's not a good example because last night they faced the Rockets, and the Rockets are one of the best rebounding teams in the association. But they've got to be better at finishing defensive possessions with rebounds. They get the stops a lot, but they give up a lot of offensive boards.
Interesting.
So offensive boards are killing them. And I also think this is a little bit more for Donovan, but Donovan hasn't been quite as explosive getting to the rim. And when he has gotten to the rim, his rim rate and his rim percentage, not his rim rate, his rim conversion percentage is down by like 10 or 11%. So that's something to watch out for. But it also could just be kind of energy conservation. Maybe he's trying to attack guys that he's not trying, that you shouldn't attack. You know, the Go Bears of the world, per se. I asked Kenny Atkinson about that. I'll have a clip on that once I get to ask Donovan himself when they're in town here on Saturday. But so I'd say giving up offensive boards, Donovan in those attacks, and then also athletic wings do give them problems. But I will say I'm a little bit reserved to that take, because there's no way you get halfway through a season, you're 36-7, and you haven't played teams that are athletic or long or strong.
Sure.
Like, I just think it's more on the Cavs to make sure that they take care of themselves. They are extremely good at taking care of the basketball despite playing a high pace. They're really good at going on these really, really long runs that people around here call cavalanches. They have multiple guys who can pass, dribble, shoot. Evan Mobley is now included in that list.
Yes, which I knew was going to happen. Once they got Kenny Atkinson, I was like, listen, I wrote about this too. I was like, listen, Evan Mobley's going to add to his game now. He's going to shoot threes and he's going to be able to do other things, because Kenny Atkinson, he wants bigs to be able to do that. Like the entire time he was the Nets head coach, they were searching for a four who can do those things, and they never really got it until they got Kevin Durant. and Jared Allen, he was experimenting with the 3-point shot. Kenny Atkinson, it's pace and space, but it's also more than that. And Evan Mobley has up this 3-point volume, and he just looks like he looks like the dude he was drafted to be more and more. To the offensive rebounding point, they're middle of the road right now and giving up offensive rebounds per 100 possessions and just per game, which I do think they want to be better. Oklahoma City gives up a ton because they're small. They're like near the top of the league with Washington, but like they have other things where they're able to sort of overcome that.
They're short, not small.
Yeah,
those guys are built like linebackers.
That's fair. Lou Dort is an edge rusher.
Exactly. You know? Exactly. I would take him here in Cleveland 100% opposite Myles Garrett. Come on
now. So let me ask you this. If I were to say Cleveland plays Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Let's say Boston beats the Knicks, because I mean, if they played in a playoff series, I think Boston wins that. Just matchup wise, it's also bad for the Knicks. And if they did get Jonas Valanciunas, I don't know how much it's going to help them against Boston specifically. So I could see them not doing that. But excuse me, if it's Cleveland Boston, how does that look this year versus last year? Assuming Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen could finish the series.
Yeah, I was going to say Jared Allen didn't play at all in that series. Evan Mobley was the one that really kind of blossomed, and that's carried over into this year. Donovan clearly was not healthy, and that's why he only played for 2 games. Max Strus wasn't really around, and right. Dean Wade was also playing on one knee.
Yeah.
Again, but he was insisting to play because they needed him to guard Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
I
The
thought
playoffs hurt, man. The playoffs
I
hurt.
thought they played Boston pretty damn well, and I don't care about the scores.
I know.
If you look at everyone who crossed the Celtics' path in that playoff run, in that championship run, I thought that the Cavs played damn well. And Karras was big. You had amazing contributions for them. Mobley. Even Darius, like, started to show signs of getting back to himself. He's obviously not what he is now and what he's reverted back into, the man that we all know,
Sure.
the all-star caliber guard.
Sure.
Like, that, I think, is where they showed you that, they're able to compete with those guys. Like, this is the thing about the playoffs that I think is a common misconception. Like, you see a five-game series that it goes 4-1, and you assume, oh my God, that wasn't even close. But you could see a 7-game series and say, what a series. And there were 20-point blowouts at home.
Right.
There were 30-point blowouts on the, I think that's a pretty common misconception. So you see 5 games and you automatically assume, maybe as an outsider or as somebody who doesn't watch the series, that wasn't even close. But it was a really well-contested series. And then you, again, have to kind of bring in the factors that were hurting the Cavs, which is obviously not having a healthy Donovan Mitchell and, like I said, Max Strus and Dean Wade. Like, that's a big deal. And especially when you don't rely on your depth throughout the season. Now you have guys coming in and playing that you're probably not used to see. They were playing Marcus Morris, and he had just come into the fold at the end of the season. Like,
I forgot about that.
No knock on Marcus Morris, but, like, he came into the fold, and he was playing, like, 20 minutes for the playoffs. Like,
yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot to ask of for guys that haven't been around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this year, I think, because Kenny's playing so many and getting them legitimate minutes, and I think there's a ton of people that have, like, over 17, 18 minutes on average. Like, if you just go down Basketball Reference, no one's averaging over 31 minutes a game. It's getting them that experience, one, and two, you're able to rely on those guys later down the line in case an injury does happen. Like, we talk about kind of additions with the Cavs. I think they're less needy of an athletic wing and more needy of kind of that, we were just talking about Jonas Valanciunas, that kind of third backup big in case one of Evan or Jarrett goes down. Because the way they do it right now, Dean Wade is their starting small forward. He's also their backup center. But Evan Mobley is a backup center to Jarrett Allen. So, like, they have these weird combos, like knee angle man the 4. Sometimes they'll go Dean with the 4 and then George at the 3 or vice versa with Jarrett Allen. Like, they have so many combinations and tall guys, like, that they are comfortable doing that. Like, their 5s are Jarrett, Evan, and Dean, even though they all start with each other. They kind of mix them and match together. And that's why Kenny, I refer to him as the mad scientist, mixing up potions in the lab. He's good at what he does. And that's how he kind of allocates his minutes around and understands that he's process-oriented. And these are the substitution patterns. This is who's playing with who. But anybody on the Cavs can play together, which is kind of what makes them so dangerous, I think, moving forward and going towards more meaningful games. And this is going to be a tough stretch.
Yes or no, the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to win the championship this year?
Oh, you're an ass. This is exactly the kind of stuff that I was glad to get away from 3 years ago. Screw it. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Why not? Sure.
Against Oklahoma City?
I hope that's the finals. I really do. Man, I can't tell you how much fun that game was to cover. The first game, I wish that Chet Holmgren was around because I wanted to see him and Evan, particularly because Chet, frankly, showed up Evan the first meeting they had in Cleveland. I wanted to see this new version of Evan Mobley against Chet Holmgren. Unfortunately, didn't get to see that in the first or second matchup. I want to see it on the big stage. I want to see it in the finals. Big markets be damned. Those are two of the best teams in the NBA.